Hi. Greetings from Wisdom Lord Raphael. Before we start, please hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell icon and don't miss any content. This is the light novel of that time I got reincarnated as a slime. If you haven't watched previous video, I will leave the link on the description box, or you can click here. Let's start. This is Tensura Light Novel Volume 17. Tensura Light Novel. Volume 17. Fragments Across Space-Time. Chapter 2. Distant Memories. Nations Counterattack. With Arsha and her team gone, the atmosphere in the room settles down. Emperor had gone back to his room to take some stomach pills, so Velgrin decided to resume her work. Well, it's been a long time since anyone's tested me. Zhang, is it? It's just like Shin's descendants, you've grown up in an interesting way. Yes, you're right. Haha, I'm surprised too. Well, now, the only thing left is. We are a nation of harmony. Yes, that's right. It is an ally of the Empire and has finally agreed to participate on the condition that other nations join the talks. Velgrin does not know much about them, as she has not negotiated directly with them. This time they have invited the President of the People's Republic, several leaders of the government, plus their personal bodyguards. They confronted Velgrin with a stunned stare. Turning his gaze sharply to Velgrin, the President of the People's Republic opens his mouth. My name is Wang Longren. Are you Ryo Dono? Yes, I am. It looks just like a human. But we won't be fooled. Demon, have we entered the empire of your allies? Or is it just a trick to make us think so? Wang Longren called out Velgrin with hostility. The bureaucrats are puzzled by this, while Velgrin herself thinks, not again. From Wang Longren's reaction, it was clear that something was up. Until she finds out, Velgrin decides it's best not to speak out. I don't know where this is, but I dared to jump into the tiger's den. Don't grow up and think your plan worked, demon. As soon as Wang Longren shouted this, the guards from China moved in. They were dressed in white robes that looked easy to move in. It was clear from their refined movements that they were experts in the martial arts. But that didn't matter to Velgrin. I recognize your formidable power, demon. But I will not permit you to speak that name. Exactly. The very name of the man who supposedly guided Long Sama, the founder of Dragon Fist, is not worthy of being spoken by a demon. The warriors shouted in a fiery rage. But the reaction from the Empire was somewhat cold. Everyone was left thinking, here we go again. It's definitely her, the bureaucrats all thought. And so did Velgrin. Long. You know, that guy named his technique as Dragon Fist. Well, Long lived in this world too. So you guys are Long's disciples and have inherited his mastery of the art. That's nice. Velgrin had studied the history of this world, but of course she did not know all of the historical figures. It is impossible for the Empire to have information on the secrets of Kung Fu that other countries keep. It's no wonder Velgrin was unaware of Long's, the Dragon Fist founder's, existence. But for the Chinese, this is a situation that they can't understand. What are you pretending to be convinced of? Are you trying to cheat? But that's not very nice. We're the best of the best, and we will destroy you here and crush your ambitions. After all, you were first. You who deceived us with your precious name, let us destroy you and regain the pride of our country. Shouting this, the warriors took up a battle position. Seeing this, Velgrin smiled happily. Oh my, for a human from this world, your fighting spirit is very skilled. You've been training hard and improving yourself. I'm glad to see that you are learning Long's teaching so well. The way Velgrin looked at the warriors was no longer the same as the way she looked at her enemies, but rather a master's gaze on their beloved disciple. That temperature difference was causing the warriors to grow angry. Do you think you can fool us? It's okay. If this happens, then all at once. The warriors tried to rely on force, but someone stopped them. Only one of them was a small figure wearing a black long robe with a dragon embroidered on it. Stop it. I'm the only match for her. The person with a transparent and clear voice was a beautiful dark-haired, dark-eyed girl. Xianhua-sama. But the warriors were about to argue in anger, but when they saw that person, Fist Saint Xianhua, they kept their mouths shut. This was because the strongest Fist Saint, who was always calm and collected and looked cool, no matter what kind of enemy she was facing, was sweating and nervous. I'll take care of it. Once she said that, there was no one to talk back. So, you're the heir. That's an impressive display of fighting spirit, I'll give you that. Yes. I am the Fist Saint who has inherited the spirit from the Fist Saint of old. If you are indeed the Dragon Phoenix Sama, Ryuo, will you give me the honor of your guidance? Of course. I'll do you the honor of coaching you. With that, the story suddenly came together. It was decided to watch the outcome of the battle without any chance for the others to interrupt. Needless to say, the result was an overwhelming victory for Velgrin. Or rather, it wasn't even a match, but only Shanhua knew that it was. In the eyes of the others, it looked like Shanhua was attacking unilaterally. Even those who were studying Dragon Fist felt that Shanhua, with her fists and feet, had cornered Velgrin. The Dragon Fist was not a bloodline, and all the profound secrets would be passed down to the one with the highest skill among the disciples. The most important skill to be inherited was the one Shanhua spoke of, Spirit. This was a forbidden ritual that required one to record every move they learned and pass it on to his successor. Moreover, a portion of his spirit was also inherited, so the quality and quantity of the fighting spirit was increased rapidly. It was not always possible for the successor to learn all of the powers and techniques, but as long as spirit was passed down, there was hope for the next generation. And so Long retired, hoping that one day the strongest fist fighter would be born. Such is the history that led to the birth of Shanhua, the fist saint who deserves the name of the strongest fighter in the world. She had completely fused her inherited spirit and her own vitality to bring all her skills and power to herself. As a result, she had reached a level of strength that was foreign to this world. More than 100,000 in existence value. In the cardinal world, where Velgrin was born, she was an overwhelmingly powerful human, even to the point of being classified as an immortal. In this world, she was unmatched, but this time, it was just too bad. Shanhua was easily beaten by Velgrin and suffered a defeat. I'm here. That was a great strength. Definitely stronger than Jensei, and in this world, you would have beaten Kondu as well. Even though she was defeated, Shanhua still felt refreshed. She could forget her doubts about Velgrin and admit that she was the real thing. And Velgrin was also extremely happy to know that her beloved Long's wishes had been carried on. She has very fond feelings for Long's disciples, led by Shanhua. Now she is willing to give them a mythical grade or two unconditionally. It never happened, but there was no doubt that Velgrin was pleased. A lot had happened, but now the heads of state are all here. All the leaders from China, except President Wang Longren, were substitutes who were disguised as fists. They thought it was a demon's trap, so the imperialists thought it was inevitable. They've been replaced by the real ones now. After Zhang was saved by Yamamoto and Akira Sakura, he calmed down in the waiting room. When he calmed down, he realized how dangerous what he had done was. Zhang is not incompetent. He had the presence of mind to acknowledge the situation. And he had consulted with the other 7 vessels. The Emperor's sword is now the 4th seat. One of the 7 had never returned from his incursion into Rosium. That's why it has come to our attention. The one who went missing was a woman who, eager to do battle, submitted a plan of action and moved her troops on her own without waiting for a decision from headquarters. This was a clear violation of military discipline. The national war potential of the 7 sacred vessels invading another country without waiting for Emperor's order is an unavoidable problem. She had always been against starting a war. But lately, she showed a sudden change of heart. Her attitude had puzzled everyone involved and was reason enough to be suspicious. The fact that she was acting on her own, and despite the fact that she was a heroic member of the 7 vessels, she was the target of the investigation. Even so, they still hadn't found conclusive evidence that the demon had taken over, but they had come to the conclusion that they had no choice but to admit it. They were convinced because their pride was broken. The match between Velgrin and Shanhua took place in the courtyard, but it was clearly visible from the waiting room. Velgrin had treated Shanhua like a baby, as if she couldn't win even with all the 7 vessels working together. When the 7 vessels saw this, they saw no point in being overbearing. So did Zhang, who had given up on his ambition to unify the world through the Holy Arsha Empire. I, too. No, I understand the position of the Empire. Yes, that's right. And as for the United States, I regret that we were forced to make a choice. Akira Sakura tried to join in, but he was cut off by Wang Longren and George, who cut him off immediately. Yamamoto and others who had been standing upright by the wall observing the meeting were able to understand what the leaders were thinking. Well, if they say His Majesty is to be blamed here, I'm sure his people will be displeased. Yamamoto glanced at Velgrin, thinking that she would make the same judgment. When the apology battle was over, the scene is redrawn. In earnest, a strategy for the demons was being planned, but all eyes were on Velgrin. So, Ryo Dono, what kind of strategy do you think is effective against demons? That was the army minister's statement. It's a shameful question. As a military leader who protects the empire, there should be no other power application. However, this time, no one was blaming him. On the contrary, the other leaders were ready to wait for Velgrin's answer. That was inevitable. They are powerless against an enemy beyond human understanding. While all eyes are on Velgrin, their only hope, she is at ease. As if to say, well, it can't be helped, she turned to the speaker. You understand that sending an army out is pointless, don't you? Reluctantly, of course. It makes sense in terms of keeping the fleet off the mainland, but there's no such thing as a fleet battle. Even if each ship is manned by people gathered here, it will be impossible to resist the demons. The army minister was right. If they came close to the mainland, the cities would be targeted by gunfire. It makes sense to build a maritime defense line to stop them, but it would be useless if they had no chance to win anyway. Whether or not the demon will destroy the city is also unknown. If they have the power to possess humanity, there's a good chance they'll use the city as is. Then there would be no reason to challenge the fleet. Velgrin nodded and replied. That's right. Firearms don't work against demons, and ordinary soldiers aren't much help. So, we are left with two choices. What is that? Either you leave it all up to me, or you can try to do a little bit of work on your own. Velgrin's statement was humiliating to the proud soldiers. But the truth is they couldn't even argue with that. The brave men and women gathered here looked at each other for a reaction. And by the keenness of their eyes, they had come to the same conclusion. The Imperial swordsman, Araki Gensei, and Minamoto Saburo, broke the ice. This is our problem, you know. I have no desire to speak of poor pride, but relying on Ryu Dono all the time is shameful. If there's anything I can do, I'll challenge him with my life. I feel the same way. Arsha's 7 sacred vessels follow suit. We don't want it to be just the men of the Empire. We wish to join you on this mission. His Majesty Zhang is out of the question. I want us to handle it. That's right. His Majesty can only do his duty if he survives. Leave it to us. Leaving Zhang behind, 6 men have declared for war. In addition, Chinese Fist Saint Shanhua announced her decision. If you protect mankind, Ryu Osama, we will fear no man. Even if we are defeated, you have promised us a great victory. Please give us the opportunity to grow, even though we are so small. Shanhua bowed reverently. 9 warriors came forward, but there was also one more person who came forward at the end. Ah, may I come along with you? That was interrupted by Billy, the head of the US Secret Service. He is a combat professional who came to the scene as George's bodyguard. He is a young man of 28, with a scar on his cheek. He is also proficient in magic and uses his own special gun bullets. But he was inferior to these 9 men. Not to mention his physical prowess, his weapons were also not too much to talk about. I'm better than others who have given up on their own, but when it comes to being an asset, I'm not that good. Billy, aware of this, waits nervously for an answer from Velgrin. George joins in. Billy is a very good man to be my bodyguard. He saved my life a lot of times, and I miss Emil. I'll give up if it's too much trouble, but you can take him with you if you want. Without a good bodyguard, he was more likely to be in danger. But doing nothing was not an option when humanity's survival was at stake. Billy could go head-to-head with the lower-ranked demons. Believing that, he offered to increase their strength. They will gather all of humanity's strength to attack the demon's stronghold. They would destroy what Velgrin called the underworld gates and remove the threat of the invaders from the route. And everyone was prepared to die for it. And yet, Velgrin laughed serenely. If you chose to leave it up to me here, I was only going to protect what I wanted to protect. But it's great that you're all willing to do it. I'll give you a little help with that resolve. In fact, Velgrin had seriously planned to abandon humanity if the former was the answer to this question. She was even willing to emigrate to another world, taking only Akira and George with her. Goddesses are fickle. The representatives of humanity made the right choice. And so, Velgrin responded to that. Billy. I'll allow you to join us. I can't say no to that. And you're just as strong as everyone else in there. With those weapons, you'll have plenty of strength to add to your arsenal. Velgrin ordered Minamoto and Billy to produce their weapons. Velgrin ordered Minamoto to bring his sword and Billy to bring his favorite S&WM. Magnum revolver. Velgrin takes them and, without a second thought, transformed them into mythical-grade weapons. This is. Minamoto and Billy are stupefied when their beloved weapons are returned to them, which have gotten visibly more dangerous. Gensei had experienced it once, so he wasn't as surprised. He just nodded with a nonchalant look on his face. The others, however, were not the same and were stunned by the fact that the 7 vessels, who knew what they were, could not understand how such a weapon could be so easily transported to another country. But it's true that their strength was also reliable. This was not the time to ask Velgrin to carry their weight, so Sakura Akira could only watch. It will be better if you use it. But I want you to keep in mind that only Shanhua is really an asset. You're called Bright, right? Yes. Yes, you. You're the best at what you do, but you still haven't drawn 3% of the mythical grade weapons power. The others are out of the question. They're only at 1 to 2% and they can do better if they try their best. If they could truly harness the power of the mythical grade weapons, they would be able to awaken as a spirit life form and defeat most demons. But with their current strength, this awakening was impossible. Velgrin only made the artifacts available to those of Shin's blood when she created them. They could be used, but they were nowhere near as powerful as they should be. But there's no need to be ashamed of that. This world is weak in magic and fragile in every way. If they could cross the realm and have their bodies reshaped, they would be able to rise above Sage. As for Shanhua, there is a strong possibility that she will awaken as Saint. So that's why the warriors are now ready. And with this, the great counterattack has begun. That's all for today, hope you guys enjoy it. Please check my other videos. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and hit the notification icon. And don't miss any updates. Thank you for watching.